All right, welcome everyone to our 1 hour session on new quizzes. I'm happy you're here. Thanks for joining me on a Tuesday morning in week one. All right, so I am recording this session. If you have questions, you are welcome to raise your hand and unmute and ask questions, or if you prefer to put those questions in the chat, you're welcome to do so as well. I'll kind of be monitoring the chat on my other screen on this side. So either way works for me. In a few minutes, I'll also put a copy of the slides in the chat if you'd like those for your reference. You don't have to try to take notes or take screenshots. I'll put it in the chat in a few minutes, although we do have a lot more folks that are registered that aren't quite here yet. So I'll wait till a few more people join. All right, our plan for today is I will share a slide that has a lot of resource links for Canvas guides on new quizzes that you can keep for reference. Intro to new quizzes. So what are they? What are some differences? Why would you want to use them? We'll discover some of the new question types that are included. We'll look at some pros and cons and highlights of using new quizzes. And during the session, I will also kind of be toggling out of presentation mode, kind of showing how to do some of these things within my sandbox. If you'd like to open up your own sandbox and kind of click around during the session, you are welcome to do that as well. And then I try to leave about 15 minutes at the end of our hour-long session so that you have a chance to get into new quizzes, try it out, see if you're running any problems, and I can help troubleshoot a little bit. All right, we're ready to get started here. So for the Canvas guides, this is essentially a resource page for you all. So once I share the slides, you're welcome to download, save it for your reference. You have all of these guides here to help you out as you're working. All right, so new quizzes. This is a bit of our introduction slide. What's really neat about these new functions. So within Canvas, there is the classic quizzes that I'm sure you all know and love, hopefully love, of the older version of quizzes. And then now there's this new quizzes option that, although it is technically an LTI of how Canvas created this, it is another Canvas quiz option. Not only does it have some new capabilities, but it also has a more updated user interface. So your student view and your instructor view will look very different. For the student view, it will look a lot more updated. It's had a nice facelift, and so students may feel a little bit more more comfortable using it, as it does feel a lot more updated than the old quizzes. For the instructor side, it does look quite different. And when I hop into my sandbox in a little bit, I'll kind of show how this is going to view within your own page. So within new quizzes, there are some highlights here that I'd like to share. So within new quizzes, you now have the ability to set extra time and extra attempts for specific students. And so once we go into new quizzes, there is a tab to manage all of these different possibilities. And once you add extra time, we can't necessarily do double time, but you can maybe add an hour or add a certain amount of minutes extra for each quiz. So if you have a standardized time, this works great. If each quiz kind of has a different time for the quizzes, then maybe you'll need to adjust this as the semester goes on. But once you set that extra time for your student that may have an accommodation, need that more time, it will then remember to give that extra time or extra attempts in all future new quizzes. So now there's not quite so much of the, where are my notes? Where did I have my list of folks who have an accommodation? With the new quizzes, it will remember that for all future new quizzes within that semester, which is so nice. You can also now require waiting periods between attempts. So if you allow students multiple attempts on the same quiz, but you want to kind of force them to wait 30 minutes, an hour, maybe 24 hours before they try again, in hopes maybe that they'll study a little bit more or review some of other things, or maybe even for them to kind of forget what those questions are a little bit, so it's a fresh start. whatever your thoughts behind that, you can now require that waiting period. So we'll kind of block them. And as far as I've seen, that waiting period is consistent whether they're on the browser version, whether they're using a computer or a phone or a device or the app. So whichever way they're accessing the quiz, they can't necessarily skirt around that waiting period. Not that I found at least. So there's a new setting also that just came out within the last few months. Around September, October, I believe, that you can now detect multiple sessions within the quiz settings. So this is something that you would need to set up before students take the quiz. And then if you want to go in and kind of double check this at another time, if you're concerned that they may be logged in multiple places at the same time, this is a way where you can kind of have that extra information if you're interested. There are also some new question types. And so this, we'll look at a couple of these a little bit later. And one of the question types, the text no question, has been renamed to a different title, although it has the same functionality. You can also now duplicate the quiz from the quizzes page. So when you're looking at your full list of quizzes and you're like, I like this quiz, but maybe I want to add a couple more questions, but I'm not really ready to part with the old one yet. At least now you can duplicate that, essentially make a copy of it, and then you can add, you could take away, change whatever you want, and you still have that older version kind of sitting on your quizzes page to use for another time if you'd rather go back to the older version. You can also pull in questions from item banks within new quizzes. So probably the biggest drawback for quizzes that personally annoys me a little bit is that with classic quizzes, you have question banks and those do not automatically roll over into new quizzes and what new quizzes call item banks, which are essentially question banks, but they're separated. And so there's kind of a clunky process for getting in your old question banks into the new item banks. But once they're there, they're very easy to import in, very similar to how question banks worked with classic quizzes. And then finally, a few weeks ago, surveys are finally now available within new quizzes. So you can have graded and ungraded surveys and now anonymous submissions. And so if one of the reasons for not going with new quizzes is because surveys were not yet possible, now they are. They've been working pretty well. I've played around in here and I haven't noticed any issues or being linked to the gradebook being kind of weird. And so surveys are now finally possible with the new quizzes. All right, any questions before we move on to looking at the different question types?
No, thank you.
Okay, great, then we'll keep going. All right, question types. Okay, this first column, we have the different question names. This next column where we do see some of these little red circles, that is the capability within classic quizzes. And then the far column is for new quizzes. I took this directly off of Instructure's website to get this as a screenshot. And so there are a couple of new ones. One is the text no question, which was essentially giving extra information, or if you wanted to add a passage out of a text for students to answer questions on later, or some kind of reference material for the next set of questions. So that stimulus or that text no question is now called a stimulus question. And so that is the new title for that type. However, the completely new types of questions are now ordering. So drag and drop ordering from first to last. This could be really helpful for steps in a process. If you want to give your students, what came first within the set of dates, maybe for like a history class or political science class, giving, which occurred first or in which order did these things take place, which can be really helpful. This is also ordering is also possible using keyboard only navigation. And so if you have students with accommodations, ordering still works really well. And then this last one, the hotspot question type is if you have maybe an image or you want to ask students to identify a certain part. This could be really helpful in like a biology class or anatomy physiology class where you're asking students to identify maybe a certain bone or a certain part of the brain. And you need students to click on the picture of where that thing is. Okay, so hotspots are really helpful for this. You could use like a preset circle and expand or contract the size, or you can kind of free draw. So if it's kind of a very wiggly, it sticks out on this side, but smaller on this other side, you can free draw what would be correct within there as well. All right, and I see a question in the chat here. So one of my classic quizzes, I have a question that only has text. How does the conversion from classic to new quiz handle this? Okay, exactly. So the text no question that you would use for your classic quizzes is now called the stimulus passage. So if you convert your classic quiz to a new quiz, it will automatically convert that to the stimulus passage type question, although it's not really a question, but it converts well. And I've tried it out, so I know it converts well. Yeah, great question. Okay. So we'll go into my sandbox in just a few minutes here and kind of look at how we could set up a couple of these questions in a few minutes. But let's look at converting to new quizzes. So if you have classic quizzes and you're ready to give new quizzes a try, there are a couple of different ways that you can do this. So the first option is when you're importing your course, right, copying your course into the new semester, there's a little checkbox where you can automatically import all of your classic quizzes as new quizzes. And so I know we're already in the semester. Maybe this is something to kind of keep in the back of your mind for next term, or if you're teaching those late start courses, where you can opt for this option. So this will replace all of your classic quizzes with the new quiz version. So you will not have that kind of backup classic quiz version unless you're going back to your previous semester's course shell. Okay. So it replaces them with the new quizzes. It converts all the questions into the new ones. If you're brand new to using new quizzes and you haven't quite taken that dive and you haven't spent a lot of time with them yet, then maybe this is something that you can keep in the back of your mind for another time once you get a little bit more familiar. Could I get like a thumbs up or show of hands? How many of you are brand new to new quizzes? Maybe you looked at it a little bit, but you haven't really used them in your courses yet. All right. Steven, I see your hand. I see a bunch of thumbs up. Okay, all right. Okay, did you have a question?
Yeah, quick question. So I have my late start classes, but I've already imported a fall class into my spring.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have found that even though like the students forget that they have signed up for a late start class. So I
Yeah.
try to have my Canvas module available, the course available before like March 30th, right? So they can see my homepage and announcements and stuff. So I've already imported. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
way to do this now, even though I've already imported and I didn't click that box?
Yes. So then in the second option here will be probably the one you'll want to
Okay.
use.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
so you can also go to your quizzes page, which I'll show in just a moment, right? Within your course navigation, that white strip on the left, click on quizzes with your whole list of quizzes or surveys. And from there, you can click on individual quizzes that you would like to migrate into being a new quiz. And so if you've already imported, you can do this. It would be kind of on quiz by quiz basis. But the really positive thing about doing it this way, even though it's more clicks and kind of migrating all those, is that you get to keep your classic quiz copy and then also have a new quiz version. So you get both. So if you go through and you're migrating all these classic quizzes into new quizzes, and then halfway through the semester or halfway through your course, your students are like, I'm having too many issues with this. It is too different. Like students are having problems navigating, or you are sick of new quizzes. You still have that backup copy within that same course shell. So then you could just swap it out of your modules or wherever you're having that organized within your course. And so I'm going to pop out of my presentation view here. Maybe. There we go. And I'm going to go into my Sandbox course. So our first step here is to come to our quizzes page. I'll have to scroll down to find mine down here within my course navigation. From here, I have a bunch of quizzes. And actually, I'm going to change my share view. That way you can see my screen a little bit bigger. All right, so here I am within my quizzes page. You'll notice that I have a lot of quizzes. As I come down, I also have a section that has my surveys, but I have a lot going on here. Within quizzes, Canvas also decided to change the icons a little bit. So if you're looking at your quizzes and you're wondering why all your rocket ships look the same, the gray outline of a rocket ship is the unpublished classic quizzes. The gray filled in rocket ship, like this one here, is a new quiz that is not yet published. You can also tell they're not published because our circles to the right here are not filled in. Versus our new quizzes. For example, here, one for La Famille. Before coming to distance learning, I was a French instructor, so there's some French in here. But that green outline is going to be our published classic quizzes. And our green filled in rocket ship here is our new quiz that is also published. And we can also see they're published by our bubbles here. All right. So when we're looking here and we're like, okay, I have, let me find a classic quiz here, the sample classic quiz 2. And I really want to take this classic quiz and try it out in new quizzes. I'm going to click the kebab menu or the 3 dots all the way to the right within that quiz and select migrate. Migrate will then start that loading of the new quiz version of this. So we keep our classic quiz and our new quiz will load at the bottom of our quizzes here. You can see I've done this quite a few times with different quizzes, 7 multiples. It's a sandbox, so that's okay. And then we have our new quiz here. You may also get an email alerting you that the import process has completed. The first couple times I did this, it really threw me off because I was afraid I copied over my entire course, but it's really the same notification just for doing your migrating to a new quiz. Okay, so if you're coming through here and going kebab menu, migrate, kebab menu, migrate, and you're going down the list, whoops, then you may get multiple of these emails that your course import has finished and see this notification at the top. Please don't worry, that really is just your quizzes. All right, coming in to a new quiz here. Once we click on that title of the quiz, our page is going to look very different. So whatever quiz type your classic quiz was, for example, this was a graded quiz, it will come over the same type within the new quiz. And so now we have surveys, so that will also work. If it was a survey, it will come in as a survey, whether graded or ungraded. You can change a little bit of the assignment settings here, such as the points, an assignment group, and displaying the grade. It will note here that it's an external tool. We are not going to change anything. This is a new quiz, but the way that Canvas created it, it technically comes through as an LTI, which is an integrated tool, but we are not going to touch anything in here. And you can adjust your assigned to and your due dates. Okay. One thing we notice here, what's missing on our page? Our huge rich content editor, our text box where we're putting in all of our directions and resource links, maybe some student learning outcomes or objectives, and that's missing. But once we come here to build, which is essentially the edit button, once we click build, we will be able to have our directions area. This is coming in from my classic quiz, but my title is here. You can still edit it by clicking the pencil icons. If I want to change up my directions here, taking out some of these strange things that came over, like links to a new window, we don't need those reminders. And if I want to kind of come in here and insert my grading to make sure all of this is ready to go. Anytime you're editing within new quizzes of any part, whether it's the title, the instructions, questions, you need to make sure that you're clicking the done button after each section. That is what will save your progress. Within new quizzes, we don't have our save button at the bottom of the page as we used to have. Instead, you need to save after each edit. So if I come in here and change the title or change the instructions, I need to click done, and that will save those changes. Okay. Once you're done making your quiz, adding your questions, you'll just click the return button, which will take you back to the quizzes page. Okay, so a little bit different view for instructors. If I come in here, let me find this one, and to view the student view, I will still need to go into build, even though it's published. And for the student view, I'm going to click the eyeball preview button up here in the top right corner. I just have some nonsensical questions in here. And this will show the student preview of the quiz. So in this one, I have no directions, no SLOs. All I have is the title and a question. Okay. And so if you had directions, they would appear up here, but this one didn't have any. This one is just a fill in the blank with some nonsensical option here. Something like that. I can click submit. It will let the student know that they are really submitting. Are they sure they want to do that? Anything that is auto-gradable, right? Multiple choice, fill in the blank, multiple answers, it will do that. And then students will be able to see their results. So percentage out of how many points and how long it took them for this attempt. Okay. They'll also see that red X or green check mark. For this case, I allow them to see the correct answer, but you can adjust when students can see the correct answers or not. As well, if you have any automatic feedback added within here, it would also show up here for your students as well. All right. Any questions on the student view here?
No, thank you.
Oh, we're good. All right. And I did just pop in a copy of the slides into the chat if you all want to save that for another time. Okay. So the preview, we can exit preview here and return back to the instructor view. Of course, here you can click the plus button here to add a question type. You can also add a question before or after any of the questions. All right. So we're going to have a chance to play in here just a little bit before I do highlights and then give you all a chance to play in your own sandboxes. Does anyone have a preference of which type of question we should add in first? We have categorization.
Multiple choice?
Multiple choice?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. Looks like others are interested as well. Okay. So when we click the plus and choose multiple choice, we will get this view here. Different question types may have different options or different settings within here. For the question title, you can add a title here or just leave it blank. That will just be whatever is next to the number 2. For the question STEM, this is where your actual question would go. So someone to throw out an example question we could add here.
When was the War of 1812?
Okay, when was the War of 1812?
That
So
was a
our
joke. I'm sorry. Let's see. Let me try something else here. When was the American Revolution? Revolutionary War.
all right. So when is our correct answer?
1776.
Well, that was the end, right?
No, that's the beginning.
Beginning.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put in some other options here.
Put down 2026.
Uh,
Let's see if the students are awake.
You're like, wait, what? Okay. So our filled in bubble here denotes which one is the correct answer. You can just toggle on whichever one would be correct here. This is your automated feedback that will pop up for students if they choose that answer. And you can do this for each possible answer if you want to, or by clicking the conversation bubble down here next to your points. This would be the auto feedback for correct answer or incorrect answer. So any of the incorrect answers, or if you want to just provide general feedback, regardless of the answer, you could add that as well. You can do one of these or all of them. That is completely up to you. If you add anything here, make sure you click the done button for it to save. All right. Question in the chat. Has any of the quiz bank interface changed? The quiz bank interface resembles the new files page, if you're familiar with that. So it looks a little bit differently. Functionality is pretty similar to the old question banks. The only thing that's kind of annoying is that the classic quiz question banks do not automatically go into the new quizzes item banks. And I'm doing my little air quotes here because question banks are now called item banks for new quizzes. All right, options here. If you want to allow them to have a calculator, you can do that. You can also vary points by answer. So if you have, maybe not for this one because it's a very specific date for the war, but if you have something where it's like, it's really close, but not quite, and you want to give partial points, you can do that now in multiple choice questions, which is really nice. Is there an option for accent marks? There's not. I know, I wish. You can align to outcomes if you use outcomes. And if you want to add this question to an item bank, you can do that from here as well. For accent marks, you know what? I still haven't found a really great way. So if you're teaching one of the world languages, French, Spanish, Japanese, right? Really any of them that have accent marks, the best way that I've kind of gone around this is adding a stimulus question or a text to know question and just copy and pasting all of the accent marks. That way they can copy and paste. Yeah, copy and paste the letter with the accent that they need. That's pretty much all they have at this point. Yeah. All right. And then for points here, I am going to make sure I give them a point for that and click done to save our multiple choice question. And so now we have it here. In the instructor view, the correct answer will be marked. Of course, for the student and for the student side, it won't be marked, but it will definitely look different within the instructor side. Now to kind of show a little bit the settings, I will not read all of these, I promise. You can always check this out within the settings tab up here. You can shuffle the questions, shuffle the answers. If you want anything to in any order, or if you just want the answers to look a little different each time. As you toggle these, you'll get that little green check mark that it's your option changes have saved. This is where you can set a time limit. You can detect multiple sessions. Here's their little thing here. So it says, warns students accessing the quiz from multiple devices that these sessions are highlighted in the activity log and accessible to instructors. Okay. Also, if you want to allow clearing sections, so if you want to give students a chance, if they click a bubble and they're like, wait a minute, I don't really want that, but it gives them a chance to kind of clear out their options, which can be really helpful. Also, if there's no answer for a multiple choice question, the new quizzes will kind of flag them that they haven't answered all the questions before they submit. And then allow multiple attempts, of course, down here. You can also hide results from students if you want. The only thing is if you hide results and then you want it to show automatically on a specific date, you would have to change this manually each semester. Using the bulk update does not work, whether you're using the Canvas one or if you're using the multi-tool. No option will change this automatically along with all the other dates. So this would have to be done manually each time. So just to let you know, you'll give yourself a little bit more work if you choose to automatically release results at a certain time. Okay. And here you can also do the waiting time between attempts. Okay, and I do see there's questions in the chat. So can you go over again how to give partial credit? Absolutely. And has new quizzes changed the view responses feature? Bruce, can you elaborate on what you mean by the view responses? Do you mean the viewing the different submissions?
I think you just covered it when you went through it.
Okay. All right. Awesome. All right. And then yes, Sally, I will go back and show how to do that. So within multiple choice questions, so I'm back into edit. Underneath the options toggle here or the expander, there is a checkbox for vary points by answer.
Mm.
And once you click that, you will get these parts on the side where you can give, maybe if you want to give partial points, like half a point versus here, you can do that as well. I know in the languages, this is really helpful if they're really close to having the answer, but maybe they forgot the extra E, or maybe they have the word, but there's no accent, and you want to penalize them for not having the accent, but they did essentially get the vocab. So this kind of cuts out some of your time grading by giving them partial points from the auto-graded part. If the vary points by answer is not clicked, you won't see any of those options.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Rebecca, yeah.
Did I raise my hand? Oops.
Oh, I see you, Rebecca.
Sorry, my screen, my mouse
Okay.
went all over my screen. On the previous page when you were showing like the options, there was something at the very end that said enable build on last attempt. What is that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is kind of exciting. If some homework super sites like VHL Central or McGraw-Hill Connect has this option for homeworks where maybe they submit their assignment and maybe they did a really great job, but they missed just one or two things. This will essentially save what their answers were from the previous attempt, and then they can just go and change those one or two things.
Huh, that's kind of cool. Thanks.
Yeah, so definitely something that would really be a case-by-case basis, I would say for that. By default, this is not clicked. By default, everything is off within the settings. Although if you do change the settings, it does, they call it they're sticky. And so as you create a new quiz, whatever settings you had marked previously will like auto-populate. So always double check your settings tab as you're creating new quizzes to make sure your settings are what you want for that specific quiz. All right, and then, oh, the other Rebecca, I see you have a question in the chat. So if you make the results viewable, do they just see what they marked? So they want to be able to see what they marked. but not give the correct answers? Sure. So you can toggle on the very last option here under the settings tab. And from here, you can, just to make this a little bit easier to see down here. So hide results from students. So maybe you want them to hide their things. So if you want to maybe show the questions and show the student responses, but you do not want to show the feedback and you don't want to show them what their scores were, that can be an option here as well.
Okay, I didn't even know that was there. Thank you. Okay, appreciate that.
Absolutely. I know there are so many settings in here. I could probably spend an hour just talking about all the possibilities. But I hope this was kind of a good highlights reel of what may be some of the most used options here. Okay. Oh, Dawn. Okay. Question. What is the easiest way to move multiple question banks over into item banks? Okay. So the easiest way, and I'm going to very broadly speak here, I can send you a help guide after we're done with the training here, but essentially you can create a new quiz. I would suggest naming it question banks and then adding in essentially question groups with all of your question banks you want to migrate. Save that as a new quiz, just with all the question bank questions. And then migrate that classic quiz that has all the questions, migrate that to a new quiz, and then import those questions into your item banks. I know, I wish there were an easier way, but that's what we've got for now. Hopefully Canvas will figure out a better way soon. Yeah, right. Okay, Paul, question? Oh, sorry. Here we go. Other questions? Okay, so the last part here that I want to show before I give you a little bit of time to try this out on your own end is the Moderate tab. Here, this is a sandbox. I just have our other instructional designer, Aisha Gaines, in here as she was trying some stuff out for me. If you have a student who requires accommodations, this is where you would add those. So you'll enter your quiz, click the build button to edit, and then select the Moderate tab. You'll see your list of students, and then you can click the pencil icon all the way to the right of that student. And then from here, you can automatically give them additional attempts. You could also just if you want unlimited, just put in 99. It will also tell you what the current assessment settings are. So currently they already have unlimited attempts. So that's not a problem here. For time adjustments, either you can make it unlimited time or give additional time. The only thing with giving additional time, if your quiz is timed, is that it's within hours. So there's no easy way to just give double time. If you know your quizzes are typically an hour, you would have to just give them an additional hour. Okay, so there is this possibility, but it's not necessarily like the easiest or most user-friendly with easily giving double time. But you can do that, or you could just remove the time limit. That way you don't have to worry about it for each time. There's also this reduced answer choices toggle if you want to turn this on. This is meant to be for students who maybe have attention disorders like ADHD or ADD. And if you have multiple choice questions that have, I don't know, 6 or 7 options, this will reduce it down to like 3 or 4. And so it's still something they have to think about. It just gets rid of some of the extra possibilities. Okay, so it doesn't give them the answer, but it just kind of gets rid of some of the noise so they can focus on what they need to do. And then once you click the blue apply button down here in the corner, that will show their accommodation here within their little column. This will also stay for all future new quizzes that you create. That student will always get unlimited time, or whichever accommodations you put in. So at least that way you're not putting in the same thing every single time. But also whatever you put in, especially if you're giving them just an extra hour, but your other students have 2 hours to do the exam, you would have to manually go change it and give them 2 hours for that double time. Yeah, so something keep in mind. Rebecca, yeah, you have your hand up.
So you said you would start with build and then do these settings. So you have to create one quiz in order to do this for a student. There's no way to like go in the back way and set it up for all quizzes without being in an actual quiz.
Correct. You would have to go into a new quiz somewhere and then add it in. Yes. And it's only for new quizzes. This does not kind of translate to assignments and classic quizzes. It will only be in the new quiz format. Yeah. All right. And then just to let you know, there are these tabs here as well for reports and exports. Excuse me. If you're interested in grabbing a quiz and item analysis that exports as a CSV file, or if you want an outcomes or student analysis, you can do all that here within reports as well. We don't have the time to do all these kinds of things today, but they are here if you're interested. Once you're all done making your settings and building your quiz, you will just click the return button in order to exit out. It will push you back into your quizzes page. All right. Some quick little highlights before I give you all a chance of work. So some positives for new quizzes. You can give that extra time for individual students. You can detect multiple sessions. You can duplicate a quiz from the quizzes page. Oops, I think I missed this earlier. When you're on the quizzes page and you click the kebab menu, those three dots all the way to the right, where we would go to migrate your classic quiz to a new quiz, that is the same place that you'd also see the duplicate quiz. And it will add like a copy in parentheses afterwards. There is now options to print. So if you want to print a blank quiz for students to take at the testing center, if you want to print out a student's quiz with their answers in it, maybe if you want to go over the quiz in person in student hours, you could do that as well. And you can also print out an answer key, which is like your sample quiz with all your answers in it. And so this is also super helpful as well. You can also search content within your item bank using the search, filter, and sort items. And we have these other type of questions. Some things to kind of keep in mind here, and you do have a copy of the slides within the chat here around 11:20, 11:30. If you use the copy to option a lot, if you want to copy that same quiz to yourself in another course, or if you're sharing this with another faculty, this copy to option is best if you duplicate it first. So duplicate it within the same course, and then you're going to use the copy to function on the duplicate. Every once in a while, there's a weird glitch that happens where if you copy to the quiz you're actually using, whatever changes are made in that other one that you copied out will also edit that original quiz. And so this is one way to make sure you're not going to get that glitch. The show correct answer dates do not update when importing. If you use any of the bulk updates or due date modifiers, this does not get factored in any way. So you'd have to do this manually for each quiz every course or every semester. And the classic quiz question banks do not automatically import. I think I talked about that a lot. But there is also an option when you do a course copy where you can migrate your question banks. I have not quite tried this out to see how well it works, but Canvas says this is a possibility. And this just took effect recently. All right. This is just some background information and a reminder for me to tell you or remind you about differentiation tags. We talked about this a lot in the DL updates on WOW, but you can also assign quizzes and surveys based on these differentiation tags. So I will leave this if you'd like to check this information out later, but I do want to give you a chance to to kind of play around and ask questions before we end. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen here and give you all maybe about 10 minutes to work in your sandboxes. Try out maybe the duplicate feature or the migrating to a new quiz. If you run into any trouble at all, please ask your questions. And if you prefer that I pause the recording while you ask your question, just let me know, and I have no problem doing that as well. So I will mute myself, but if you have any questions, please let me know. Option for giving maybe a short answer type question. If there's any short answer or essay question type, that is all manually graded. And so once students submit the quiz, even if many of the questions are auto-graded, if there's at least one that cannot be auto-graded, like an essay question, even if it's really like a short answer, or send me a link of something to of how you researched whatever topic, or find the code for this situation. And that way students will have to do that research part. And because it's manually graded, it will also show up on your to-do list in order to grade it and double check the other answers. And so if there's, that could be a good way of doing that as well.
I got another question. Is the new quizzes, do they recognize, like if I capitalize a word in the answer and the student doesn't, they get it wrong, even though it's spelled exactly the same, but one's capital, one's not. Or if they
Yeah.
write the same thing down, but they spell it a little different. Is new quizzes smart enough to catch that, or is it still going to be more wrong?
No, it's the same like classic quizzes had.
Okay.
All right. And Kate, I see your question. You have a hand up?
Yeah, it is. I think just general question to everybody. So I teach intro to business, and I was on ground until COVID, and then moved to online and have remained there. One of the problems, I change my tests every semester, but one of the problems that I'm facing, and I was hoping maybe new quizzes might solve it. I do multiple choice, true and false, and I have test banks, and I, try and do hard and medium questions and maybe a sprinkle of easy. But students just, I don't know if I'm giving them too much time, where I keep adjusting that, where I'm getting 100 or 90s on tests where, the questions can be pretty difficult, and just trying to maybe change things up to where not I don't mind giving A's, but I also don't want them using the textbook, and I tell them not to use textbook. So just maybe whatever tips and tricks you might have, maybe I should go to short answer questions for some of it. But is anybody else has faced this over the years?
I have,
So-
in teaching history. What I have done is closed up the time that they can take a particular question,
Right.
So I close it down so it doesn't give them as much time to look around.
So what do you have? So you set it for, is that in new quizzes?
No, it's classic.
Okay. So
Yeah.
for each question, you have a time limit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But-
no, I have it overall for the,
Okay.
but then like if I have 10 questions and I ask maybe 15 minutes at the most,
Okay.
and so it gives them time, but it doesn't give them a lot of time, to
Right.
look things up.
Right. So it's 50 questions, and I've moved from like 35 to 40 back down to 35 minutes. And there are students that they finish it in
I know.
like 15 minutes, and I don't
Well,
want, so
they might be
anyway,
using a second device.
right.
I have a lot of trouble with that. They can look it up very quickly. Even if you have a lockdown browser, they can look it up very
Yeah.
quickly on their computer or their phone rather. Yeah. So
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I haven't been able to solve that myself. I just haven't, I just do my best with trying to make the questions a little bit tweaked so that they, can't answer them that quickly without thinking more about them.
Right.
But boy,
Right. Well, I even moved to finding questions that are like 4, 5, 6 sentences.
yeah,
There's a
right.
lot of reading, right? And maybe the answers are less, right? Or kind of switch it up to where they have to
Yeah,
read more words, but it still doesn't seem to help that much.
yeah. Well, we're running a race with students between
Yeah.
AI and our classes. But
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's a conversation for probably
Another day.
another
Yes.
Right.
conference where we can pound the table with our shoe or something.
Yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
Sally.
Yeah,
Right,
and
you
there
can,
really isn't a great answer to all of that, and it's something that I think most instructors kind of struggle with. I don't know, Rebecca, did you want to see something real quick on it? Because I also see the other Rebecca's hand is up for another question.
I had actually a
yeah,
different question. Oh, sorry.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to ask because one semester as an early adopter, clicked enable new quizzes and then had a panic attack when I saw what that meant and found a way to undo it. So is this the best way now to slowly migrate to new quizzes, is to do this, duplicating it in one at a time into a new quiz? You don't have to enable the whole thing.
Yes.
And then
Yes,
at
if you
some
want
point,
kind of a slow introduction to see how you feel about it first, that would definitely be the better option for you.
okay, and then at some point, will that button still be there? You'll just enable it if you want to just have them all migrate over, and then your course will just be new quizzes, the classics will be gone.
Yes, and there is no timeline yet from Canvas of if or when they will get rid of classic quizzes. I imagine that eventually it may happen, but there's nothing from Canvas letting us know when, if that will happen.
So it's not like that design tool, which I have comments about.
Yeah. No, it's not like design tools versus the newer Design Plus. Yeah. And that's a whole nother training. So yeah. Okay, last quick question. I believe the other Rebecca had a question as well.
Oh,
Nope.
sorry. No, I didn't have a question. I was just
Okay.
going to comment that doing lots of drag and drops and using these other things is also really helpful instead of the multiple choice and the
Yeah,
true false, because
yeah,
it's really easy to just take your phone and have ChatGPT open. I've tried it at my work where they do stuff like this, and I just go, what's the answer to this? You can take a picture. But when you have drag and drop, they actually have to do something. But that's a lot of work. So just throwing it out there.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great suggestion.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to share my last couple of slides here that have some resources for you all. All right. Okay. So on here, there are some resources here for you all. The links work if you download the copy of the slides. If you have questions while you're working, please email us at distancelearning@sierracollege.edu. This email is really great because it goes to the whole team. And so if one of us is in workshops all day or in meetings or out sick, right, it's January, the other members of the team will also get the email, so you'll get an answer a bit quicker. Of course, we have our faculty resource guide Canvas shell that has its own set of resources, and our YouTube channel. And so Aisha and I have worked really hard this last year. We now have, I think, 105 YouTube videos on there, including a new quizzes walkthrough and how to set that up if you're looking for something, if you get stuck as well. We also created 2 chatbots. So speaking of AI, these were made with PlayLab, which is a nonprofit out of UC Berkeley originally. And so there's no login required, no account required. You can remain anonymous. And the only questions and information will kind of get filtered through just to make sure the bots are responding properly to these. So occasionally we'll kind of click through and make sure that they're responding well. but it mostly pulls from resources that we have given to the chat box to pull answers from. So we have the ProfBot, which is like a faculty resource chat bot. And then there's also a chat bot on RSI accreditation. And this was made last year. And so it should still be current, all the information in there. And so that's a lot of fun, especially if you're looking for ways to make your assignments or your quizzes a little more AI resistant. You can try chatting with a ProfBot and getting some ideas on how to do that as well. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day today. And I hope the rest of your week goes well.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you very much.
Tara.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Tara.
Have a great
Thank
have a
you.
great semester, everyone.
Thank you.
Tara, one last question. Is the drag and drop, that's only new quizzes, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. I just checked it.
Yeah.
Dang.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Appreciate you, Tara.
You're so welcome, Kate.
Bye.
All right, wonderful. And with that, I will stop the recording. And then if anyone has other questions, you're welcome to ask. I can hang out for another minute